She didn't knock. She didn't call. She simply walked into Marcus Hale's backyard, picked up a pair of wire cutters, and snipped the black cable, running along the fence as if it belonged to her. Marcus saw it from his kitchen window, coffee mug still in his hand, and for a second he could not process what he was seeing. Diane Marsh, the HOA's self-appointed community standards enforcer, did not hesitate, did not look back, and did not act like a trespasser who had just crossed a line. She clipped the line clean, turned toward the house once, and walked away with a clipboard tucked under her arm. What she did not know was that the cable was tied to a monitored secure work connection, and the moment it was cut, an automated tamper alert fired off to a security operations center in Virginia. 30 minutes later, 2 unmarked black SUVs were parked in front of her house, and the quiet little neighborhood had already changed forever. Marcus had spent most of the past 6 years working from home as a network infrastructure contractor. He was 43, careful, methodical, and used to solving problems before they became emergencies. He had bought the house because it looked orderly, the dues were reasonable, and the HOA documents were clear enough to read before closing. He did exactly that. He read the CCNRs, attended the welcome orientation, introduced himself to the board, and paid every quarterly bill on time. He wanted a quiet life, a clean yard, and enough privacy to work without constant interruptions. That was why he had the cable, professionally installed along the inside of the fence, fully permitted by the county and fully documented. It was not an eyesore, and it was not random equipment. It was part of a secure work setup tied to a federal contract, with tamper detection built into the line itself. Marcus had shown the paperwork, kept copies, and done everything by the book. The first signs of trouble came from Diane, who treated ordinary rules like tools she could bend to her own will. Diane started small and stayed persistent. First it was the mailbox post, which she claimed sat too close to the curb. Then it was Marcus's outdoor security camera, which she insisted needed special board approval because it could see a common area. He responded in writing, cited the correct sections, and attached the permits. The board backed off those complaints, but Diane kept searching for something she could turn into a win. On a Tuesday morning in October, while Marcus sat at his kitchen table on a video call with a colleague in Maryland, movement in the yard caught his attention. He turned and saw Diane standing by the fence, lifting the cutters to the cable conduit. She checked the yard, like she was making sure no one was watching, then cut the line clean through. The cable did not just lose a signal. It triggered an automated alert tied to his secure work system. Marcus saved the camera footage before he even stood up. In that instant, the situation stopped being petty HOA pressure and became deliberate damage to documented property. The escalation moved faster than Diane expected. Marcus opened the security app and watched the footage again, this time with the timestamp and the wide-angle view making everything unmistakable. He backed up the clip to multiple locations, then checked the doorbell camera, and saw 2 black SUVs with federal plates parked on the street in front of Diane's house. 2 men in suits got out, walked to her front door, and knocked with the kind of calm that said they already knew why they were there. Marcus stayed in his kitchen and kept building the record. That afternoon, he sent a certified letter to the HOA board, copied the management company, and included a real estate attorney. He attached the footage, the county permit, the installation documents, the employer letter, and the certified mail receipts proving prior notice. Diane had not just damaged a cable, she had crossed from neighborhood bullying into liability, and the paper trail was already moving against her. By then, the board had no clean way to frame the incident as a misunderstanding, and Marcus was only getting started. 4 days later, the board president called Marcus directly, and the tone was very different from the one Diane used in her violation notices. Diane Marsh had been suspended from all community liaison activity pending review. 8 days after that, The apology arrived in writing. All 11 of Marcus's earlier violations were formally dismissed. The board added a resolution stating that no community liaison or member could enter a homeowner's private fenced yard without written notice and consent. Diane's self-created position disappeared from the HOA structure entirely. As if the board hoped removing the title would remove the embarrassment. A county code enforcement officer also noted that a complaint had been filed regarding the unpermitted removal of permitted infrastructure. Marcus had not shouted, threatened, or escalated in a loud way. He had simply documented everything, and that documentation had started to break the illusion that Diane's authority was real. The breaking point was no longer the cable. It was the moment the HOA realized its own rules were now working against the person who had abused them. The most dramatic moment came at Diane's front door. Marcus watched it unfold from his kitchen window as the 2 unmarked black SUVs remained parked outside and the plainclothesmen stood on the porch with calm, controlled posture. Diane was still holding herself like someone expecting to talk her way out of trouble. But that confidence did not last. The clipboard under her arm suddenly looked meaningless. The cut cable had already been documented. The tamper alert had already been logged. The footage had already been preserved. The legal letters were already in motion. Marcus could see the exact moment the power shifted. The smirk faded, the shoulders tightened, and the performance collapsed. By the time the SUVs pulled away, the neighborhood no longer felt like a place where her opinion ruled. It felt like a place where proof had finally spoken louder than intimidation. For Marcus, that was the real turning point. Nothing dramatic had to be said. The evidence had done the talking. 2 weeks later, a new cable was installed along the same route, fully permitted, fully documented, and fully protected. Marcus's work setup went back to normal, but the neighborhood was not quite the same. The board had changed its procedures. The new policy made it clear that no one from the HOA could enter a private fenced yard without proper notice and consent. The self-appointed enforcer role was gone. The dismissed violations stayed dismissed, and the entire incident became the kind of story neighbors told in lower voices at the mailbox. About 6 weeks later, the doorbell camera captured Diane leaving the neighborhood for good. Her car, rolling out quietly, with no crowd and no ceremony. Marcus kept living the way he had planned from the beginning. Steady work, a calm house, and a fence line that actually meant something. In the end, the cable was never the real story. The real story was what happened when someone mistook confidence for authority and ran into a man who kept the receipts. If a neighbor crossed your line like that, would you react with noise or with proof?